Today, I want to talk about something that has probably already been discussed many times, but I honestly think it's the kind of subject that never gets old. One that's always fascinating to revisit: zombie apocalypses. Specifically, I'm going to go over the 5 apocalypses that, in my personal opinion, would be the absolute hardest to survive if they ever became reality. I'll lay them out as a quick list, but I'll also take my time explaining exactly why I think each one is so dangerous. Now, if you're already familiar with the genre, chances are you have a pretty good idea of what names are going to appear here. After all, I'm focusing on the most iconic and recognizable sagas, the ones that pretty much define zombie fiction in video games. But let me say this: if you'd like to see a separate video diving into lesser-known apocalypses, those obscure, underrated gems within the zombie universe, make sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing. That way, I'll know there's interest in taking the discussion further. Alright then, let's dive straight in. The Freakers in Days Gone are, in my view, a fantastic starting point. They take the traditional idea of a zombie and push it to a whole new level. The infection in Days Gone isn't only terrifying because it turns humans into incredibly fast, aggressive hunters who attack relentlessly in packs. It's terrifying because it also spreads to animals. This single detail changes the survival equation entirely. Normally, in most zombie fiction, one of the proposed solutions is to escape urban centers and hide out in the wilderness, where there's more space and fewer infected. But here, that's no safe haven at all. Forests and mountains are just as dangerous, maybe even worse. Imagine trying to survive when bears, wolves, or even birds can become infected and hunt you down with the same violent drive as human freakers. Suddenly, the idea of running to the woods to survive doesn't hold up, and that's not even mentioning the hordes. These massive swarms of freakers move like unstoppable waves of destruction. Facing one alone? Forget it. It's practically impossible. Even if you had a secure shelter, if that shelter stood in the path of one of these hordes, it wouldn't last long. Entire safe havens could be wiped out in minutes. That's what makes this apocalypse such a nightmare scenario. It leaves you with almost nowhere to run and even fewer options to hide. Next up is Dead Space and the Markers. Now, this is a different kind of horror. The infection here isn't just about physical transformation, it's also about psychological collapse. Once the markers start to influence you, paranoia and madness creep in little by little until you lose all sense of self. Your mind doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to whatever alien design the markers are pushing. The transformation is gruesome. Mutations that twist your body into grotesque abominations with razor-sharp limbs and nightmarish deformities. And worst of all, there's no cure, no coming back. Once you're caught in this, you're gone. The scale of this apocalypse makes it especially grim. This isn't a virus confined to one city or country. The marker infection has the potential to consume entire planets, to spread across the galaxy if left unchecked. Imagine that for a second. The extinction of not just humanity but entire civilizations, all rewritten into a twisted necrotic hive. Even fighting the necromorphs is brutally difficult. Unlike classic zombies, you can't just aim for the head and move on. You could blow off a necromorph's head, and it would still keep coming. The only way to put them down is through strategic dismemberment, targeting their limbs one by one. And even then, the sense of dread doesn't end, because unless you destroy the markers themselves, the infection continues. But destroying them isn't just a matter of firepower. They actively manipulate your mind, breaking down your will, making you hallucinate, and eroding your sanity the closer you get. This apocalypse isn't just about survival of the body, it's about survival of the mind. And that's what makes it almost impossible to overcome. Now, number 3, cordyceps. And yes, of course, The Last of Us had to appear here. This one isn't just frightening because of what happens in the game. It's frightening because it feels so plausible. We're not talking about some invented virus or alien parasite. This is based on a real fungus, one that already exists in nature. In our world, cordyceps primarily affects insects, taking control of their bodies and turning them into mindless vessels that spread the spores further. And while, for now, it can't survive in human bodies due to temperature and biological limits, the very fact that it exists is enough to make the premise of The Last of Us terrifying. In the universe of the game, the fungus adapts and makes the jump to humans, and the result is catastrophic. The infection spreads not just through bites but through spores, microscopic particles floating in the air that can infect you simply by breathing them in. This means no place is safe. Buildings, underground tunnels, even your own shelter could be filled with invisible death. The fungus overtakes your body gradually, warping your flesh, twisting your limbs, until you're no longer recognizable as human. And the longer it's allowed to grow, the worse it gets. Part 2 gave us the Rat King, a hideous fusion of multiple infected fused together over years, forming a grotesque, colossal creature. That was the fungus given time to evolve unchecked. Imagine what it could become in decades. The horror of cordyceps isn't just the monsters it creates, it's the way it rewrites the world itself, consuming environments, overtaking structures, spreading like a mold that never stops. It shows us that humanity doesn't need an alien invasion or a supernatural curse to fall. Something as simple, as natural, and as small as a fungus could wipe us out completely. Fourth place goes to the Plagas in Resident Evil 4. This one is fascinating because it takes the idea of zombies and turns it upside down. Instead of mindless, shambling corpses like we saw in earlier Resident Evil titles, the Plagas produce infected hosts who are coordinated, intelligent, and terrifyingly efficient. Once you're infected, you don't just lose control of your body. You become part of a hive mind, forced to obey and worship a new collective society. These aren't dumb zombies bumping into walls. They communicate, they organize, they fight with tactics, they follow leaders. This completely changes the game of survival. Imagine trying to stand against a threat where every infected person is basically a soldier, working together under one collective will. And then there's the added nightmare of weapons. It's not just teeth and claws anymore. These infected use chainsaws, axes, spears, knives, tools designed for killing, now in the hands of creatures that feel no fear and never get tired. Your chances of survival drop dramatically when the enemy is both relentless and armed to the teeth, literally and figuratively. Finally, let's talk about dying light. This apocalypse is particularly cruel because the infected aren't technically dead. Their hearts still beat, their bodies still function. The virus mutates people in horrifying ways, creating a wide variety of threats, but none more terrifying than the volatiles. These creatures sleep during the day, but hunt at night with blinding speed and terrifying strength. They're not just faster than you, they're stronger, more agile, and they can scale walls and chase you across rooftops. Essentially, they turn every single nighttime outing into a death sentence. Sure, there's the UV light as a weakness, but it's hardly a reliable defense. You'd constantly be on edge, one wrong step away from being torn apart. Think about it. Zombies that can sprint, climb, leap across buildings and hit harder than any human ever could. What chance does the average person have in that world? Not much, if we're being honest. Survival here doesn't just look unlikely, it looks downright impossible for most of us. Tell me what you think about all of this. Of course, there are many other examples I could bring up, but as a first look into what some of the deadliest zombie apocalypses in gaming could look like, I think this list captures the essence pretty well. If you'd like me to make a longer, more detailed version with even more apocalypses, let me know in the comments. And also, let me know if you agree with my ranking. If not, tell me how you'd rearrange it. That's it from me for now. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you in the next one.